Greetings. Thank you so much for the really beautiful messages I've received over the past week. Sending me a speedy recovery. Hasn't been a picnic, but it's okay. So, while I was lying in hospital, sounds so dramatic, doesn't it? While I was lying in hospital, I can't stop my brain from ticking over. My body was resting and I was healing, but I'm always thinking of different things to be of service to the community when it comes to alternative pathways, because I really think this is a very serious area. Livelihoods on the line, families, right? We have to take it really seriously. We can't just take it with a pinch of salt. We can't just take things that might work in theory only. And actually, sometimes we really need to know the rules and the regulations of the system to then work with the system, within the system, and then outside of the system. And while I was lying there, not everyone knew that I was unwell. So they were just sending me their regular messages. And a few messaged me about trusts. Those who know Warrior at Law has been in this space for over 30 years. And Zev has an impeccable, in-depth comprehension on the lawful and legal rights. So we do need to look at legislation as well as lawful rights. And so you almost need to know you need to know all the rules, right? To really comprehend how the rules work. And as much of us as though we don't like taxes and we don't like the ATO, we also really need to comprehend ATO legislation. We cannot put our heads in the sand. We cannot get on a space shuttle and fly to privacy planet and live in the private. We live here on planet Earth, and I'm standing on land that's commonly known as Australia, so I'll just speak about that place. So there are some amazing truther movements. I call it the truther freedom, sovereign, don't like the word sovereign, but each their own private movement. And they've popped up since COVID because you know what? We all could see what a crock of BS. And we could actually see that the veil was coming down. And so I think the majority of amazing mentors in that space have good hearts. However, it's really important to think past our own nose. And there is more than one way to skin a cat. The way I skin a cat is going to be different to how someone else skins a cat. But at the end of the day, the buck stops with me. I am self-responsible. I need to make these decisions seriously, not just for myself, but for my children and my children's children. So sometimes we actually do need to be educated and do need to get comprehension from accountants, actually. Can you believe I'm saying that? But there are some very good accountants who comprehend both jurisdictions. And we need to get comprehension on the legislation. We cannot change the land title system. We cannot change the ATO system. Now, it would be very admirable and it's wonderful for those who say, yes, we can, it's in numbers, etc. Well, yes, if you can get 95% of the whole population to stop doing what they're doing, then we have a good chance. It's pretty good. Now, yes, I am very tired and I'm rambling a little bit, but I think it's really important. I'm just talking out loud, not to give you answers, not to tell you which way to go, but just so you have some critical thinking before you make any decisions. Now, Warrior at Law, Zev, has structured some excellent trusts, whether it's for property, high-end asset management, family relations, projects. Each trust does something different, right? The magic of a trust is in the clauses of the deed. The thing is, while we're living on this planet in Australia, we still have to adhere to the system regulations, and no amount of word salad on a letter or minutes is going to get you out of that. And if you want to get out of anything, as soon as you start feeling that energy or someone is saying about getting out of something or negating something. Just all I'm saying is please sit with it. And I want you to look at the paper trail or the breadcrumb trail that's led you to this point. And then I want you to look at the domino effect or the ripple effect that may lead you elsewhere. That's all I'm saying. And have open discussions about it. And like I said in this Truther group, there community, there are wonderful living men and women, everyday mum and dads like you and me who want best. But I also look at intention. If it's going to cost me quite a lot of dollars just to get a little bit of information, I question that. Now, yes, we need to put food on the table. You know, I need food on the table. There are some really great organizations that do request contributions in exchange for what they offer. And I think that's very important. But if it looks like a marketing net, I'm just saying, if it looks like you're being pulled into a marketing net, you know, there's a free call to pull you into some sort of process, or you pay an amount to get the privilege or the benefit to be the only ones exclusively getting something. I come from a background in marketing. Nothing wrong with marketing. The thing is, I just always want you to sit with intent. Yes, we all need to put food on the table, but also check, well, whatever I'm getting in this exchange, is it going to get me in hot water? Do I need to have further chats, discussions? I really believe we need to look at both sides. And there are some very well educated, amazing mentors in the ATO obligation space that I think you should chat to, as well as those with, 30 years experience under their belt in the legal and lawful space. We do need to comprehend the statutes and legislation. We do need to comprehend ATO obligations, and they don't accept the living man or woman. The ATO don't accept me as a living flesh, living man or woman. So I actually have to word things in a certain way. And they also don't accept structures that aren't in their set of definitions. So some people may be watching this and go, what does that girl know? Don't know. Just talking out loud out of duty of care comes from a good space. So it's really important, that we want to make sure that we protect what our sweat equity has worked for, and from that's about structuring your property, you know, how we can structure that lawfully and structuring it privately, though. There's no such thing. In Australia, we have the Torrens title system. It's been here since South Australia in 1958. There's no structuring it privately. As soon as you have property in the Torrens title system, it's public. No after fact letters or notices is going to change that. So it is important that we structure things without triggering unnecessary tax. Who wants tax at all, right? We don't want to have unnecessary tax, and it is important to apply equity principles for real protection. Now, we can write all the notices and declarations in the world, and you can hear Harkin the dog. He's pleased to have me home, but he's also, a little bit boisterous. Maybe he doesn't like the ATO either. Um, the declarations aren't really accepted by the ATO. Now, there are some really clever mentors in this space who are very good at what they do. So if you're one of those people watching this, please know that I come from a place of love, okay? And I'm just talking out loud for the layman, for the everyday living man and woman who's a bit confused by that truth of freedom, private sovereign community groups. They just keep throwing stuff at us, right? I feel they come from a good place, but they don't comprehend the legislation and they do not comprehend what the ATO's obligations are. So basically, I think I can't tell you what to do, but if you don't want your property in your given name and last name, then yes, you'd put it in a trust. But there's no getting out of anything here. And I'm just saying, do your due diligence. I would hate for 2 years' time, 5 years' time, 10 years' time for things to catch up with you and the ATO audit you. I just don't wish that upon anyone. So I would just do your homework and have conversations with those who really comprehend ATO obligations and land title legislation. So, and that's not me. But if you want to know who that is, shoot me a message and I'll send you to them. I do not get a financial cut, a commission, or anything by suggesting going having yarns with really wise souls. I just want to be transparent about that because, again, there seems to be the cha-ching dollar thing in this space. So it's just out of duty of care. And I know I'm rambling. I've literally been on a drip for like 4 days with things that I wouldn't normally want to put in my body, but it was desperate times. So let's have a look. When we look at trusts operating privately and lawfully, so we want to have a separation of title and use. I think that's very important. And we want to make sure we have a trust that's non-commercial. It's a non-trading trust, okay? Because, we're taxed on profit with the ATO, so it's a non-trading trust. All these things are very important. It's also very important to make sure if you do have any other external structures like associations, etc., that you work that in with the flow correctly because you don't want the ATO to deem that as tax evading. It's very important. Okay. Now, how to use trusts and associations without triggering unnecessary tax? Well, there's one golden rule. Do not trigger a taxable event. Right? You'll hear accountants talk about that, taxable events, which means do not sell the property into the trust and do not transfer the title, do not exchange consideration. Well, that means I'm not moving it into a trust at all then, am I? Right? I'm just speaking out loud, my fumbling thoughts for you to think about as well. All right, so we can do a private set of minutes to add assets to the corpus trust, right, of the living man or woman. But I'm telling you now, I've seen it time and time again, the ATO doesn't recognize any of this word salad. I'm not saying that the word salad isn't real. They just don't recognize it. All right. So yes, one could say, well, we're avoiding stamp duty because nothing was sold. It became corpus by settlement, not commerce, because the ATO only taxes on profit, consideration, commercial exchange, disposal, acquisition. So we can apply equity principles for real protection. We look at the intent, the private arrangement, the private minutes, the private jointer agreements, etc. All valid. I totally hear you. And therefore, there are some truther groups who are saying that they can write you some declarations and ATO template letters to avoid those things, negate those things. Absolutely. Zeb's been writing excellent templates every day of the week for 30 years. Absolutely. But when I was lying in hospital, I was thinking, okay, but this is not actually changing it out of your given name. If you want to protect your property by taking it out of your given and last name, by doing all of this isn't actually doing anything because the ATO and the Land Titles Office don't recognize any of the stuff I've just been rambling about, pretty much. Okay, so I think we just basically need to have a good think about if we do move it into a trust. I think, I can't tell you what to do, but personally, I would have my property in a trust. But I would also get really solid guidance regarding stamp duty, capital gains, and land tax. I really encourage you to do that. And I really say that these are just thoughts, that private notices aren't going to negate that, right? And if you think that, oh, after 12 months you haven't heard anything, the ATO have a memory like an elephant, which I've seen recently, right? The council have a memory like an elephant. You might think you've got out of something and you haven't heard back from them. No, their automatic steam train is still going along. So basically, if you write something in private minutes, that doesn't mean that it is acknowledged by the legislation. So I just feel that the corpus only stuff can sometimes just be a bit of word salad in practice, right? So to have actual enforceable protection when it comes to trusts and your property, the trustee does have to be the owner on the land titles certificate, right? So, say the trust is called the Olive Grove Trust and Sam Smith is the trustee, right? It would say trustee Sam Smith, trustee for the Olive Grove Trust, and that's what's on the land title certificate. So, Sam Smith doesn't own the property, the Olive Grove Trust owns the property. But yes, it has to be done that way through your conveyancing solicitor or agent. Now, if it's a transfer of title, I would get solid guidance. And if you want solid guidance from an ATO obligation perspective, let me know. I will share with you amazing, amazing mentors in this space who really know what they're doing. And I do not get a commission to recommend them. Shoot me a message about negating this stamp duty. But then also, if you go to sell the property, the thing is, when a property is not in your first and last name, your given and last name, the ATO no longer regard it as a primary place of residence, even if you're physically living in that property, which means that it's no longer a primary place of residence. So if you sell it, there could be a CGT event, could be. Also, land tax every year. So, you're already paying a high amount of council rates. And let's not go down the rabbit hole about council isn't a formal level of government, etc., etc. Correct, it isn't, but it is a legal entity. And through the Local Government Act in every state, the statutes have declared authority to do certain things. And that's how wonderful living men and women are also losing their homes right now by not paying their council rates. I would love to move to Privacy Planet with you. If there is a space shuttle going, I will let everybody know. But right now, we can only focus on what we can do, not what we can't do. All right. You need to have proper conveyancing and tax guidance before you do anything. And again, if you would like that, let us know. The magic of a trust is in the deed. I can put my hand on my heart and know that Warrior Law does an excellent trust. It is, but we're not going to not think past our own nose and say that that you're going to get out of certain things. Things always, I think we've learned in life, things always catch up with you. Now, there are some amazing groups who are sharing wonderful guidance and advice. Just do your due diligence first, please. That's all I'm saying. And I just think that we can't pretend that private minutes or private notices or declarations shield from third-party claims. It's really, really important. It does not negate or override statutory obligations, and it does not change the land title registry in reality. Okay. And we need to look at the practical consequences, what the ATO and others can do. If revenue finds the arrangement results in a tax event, they don't really care, right, where something lands. They care about the process and where it's come from. They will do income testing. They will audit you. They can assess tax penalties and interest. They can actually do these things. Now, yes, everything is an offer. So I did a previous video this morning about, if the ATO does contact you, request it in writing because then we can assess the offer. So what should we actually do in a practical sense? I would just, we do have to be responsible for ourselves. We do have to get our own education. Trust your gut. If you feel that you're in a flow of marketing, right? Just pay attention to that and make sure that before you do anything, get your due diligence guidance from both sides of the fence. There's nothing wrong with having a hybrid approach, a little bit in this jurisdiction, a little bit in that. But if you're doing something in the public jurisdiction, and that includes anything to do with the Land Titles Office, property in Australia is under the Torrens title system. and each state has a land titles office. We cannot privately get out of that. Okay. So the bottom line of why I'm rambling and when I was lying in hospital thinking about this is because uh, there are some great living men and women who are jack shit of the system like me, but I just want to make sure out of duty of care that we think things through before we make decisions. So, you know, if you want real legal protection and lawful protection that third parties, courts, and revenue, the ATO in Australia, will respect, the public record must reflect the legal reality. I'll say that again. The public record must reflect the legal reality. Private minutes that leave title in your personal name are useful internally only. Private notices are useful internally only, but they do not make the property self-safe against tax, creditors, or registration-based rights. So I hope I make a little bit of sense in my ramblings after, lying in a hospital bed for 4 days. You know where I am. I always put all the information in my videos. I am just a lady who's nearly 50, living in Queensland, who tries to be a critical thinker and speak out loud about all the rambling thoughts in my head because I feel that you probably have the same rambling thoughts at times as well. So, thank you for getting a few bits of gold amongst my rambles, if you can. And as always, be well.